People all week have been having an opinion about a school in Queensland, a school that apparently had sent out some sort of a survey, some sort of a contract, a newsletter, depending on which version of this, but all of it was a suggestion that all the kids should somehow commit to the gender of which they were born with. I'm not entirely sure why. My view is that we have seen, again, some interesting little standards. Remember last week we were talking about a person who wouldn't wear a pride jumper because of their religious belief. That was apparently okay. Now, I don't understand how any religious belief has a particular view on homosexuality or transgenderism or anything like that. And I also am consistent here that the law of the church should never trump the law of the land. So it was a disgrace, in my view, that this school never got anywhere near it. Got anywhere near this thing. Now, because their funding was about to be pulled, apparently they have now pulled the survey. But the question now is about issues like religious discrimination laws. Do things have to be tweaked that say, even if you are an all-in hardcore Christian school, you cannot get your students to have to commit to a gender or sexuality position? Here's the PM.
My kids go to a Christian school here in Sydney, and I wouldn't want my school doing that either. And the bill that we're going to be taking through the Parliament, we'll be having an amendment which will deal with that to ensure that the kids cannot be discriminated against on that basis.
And Queensland's Education Minister, who is the parent of a non-binary child, said this.
Schools have got a very robust anti-bullying campaign in all schools, and I urge all students be respectful, love your neighbour, and of course make sure that bullying no way.
Now, Bronwyn, again, if you get a stick of government funding, then you should have to play absolutely by the rules. I think you should, even if you don't. I don't want any facility in this country to make it uncomfortable in any way, shape or form for who people are. What's your thought about this week, though? Because, again, last week, nothing to see here when it was about the religious freedom of somebody not to promote a gay pride jumper. But then we have this scenario playing out this week.
Well, you make that point very well, Paul. And there are double standards that are applied in this area. But of course, the idea of the commitment they were asking people was just against all the rules for school funding. Somebody quite clearly hadn't done their homework, to put it mildly. I mean, to discriminate against children in that manner just isn't going to wash, nor should it. And obviously, the question of funding has changed the principal's mind. As it should. Now, the bottom line is this. We're told that a panacea for all of these problems will be a freedom of religion piece of legislation. I don't agree with it.
Well, me too.
I argued very, very strongly when we had the referendum in 1988 about a mini Bill of Rights being inserted into the Constitution, and one part of that was a freedom of religion question. And I argued very strongly that the Constitution, which says there'll be no state-based religion in the country, that the law of the land is what rules, not the law of the church, it would be a canon of the Catholic Church or of the Protestant Church or of a Muslim mosque or of a Jewish temple. None of that will ever usurp the authority of the law made by parliaments. And the proposed law, as I see it, is just going to be a mishmash of prohibitions. It's not a guarantee of freedom, to my way of thinking at all. And it offends people of gender, people who are part of the LGBTQA community, just as much as it offends me. And I think that there needs to be civility in this discussion. There needs to be an understanding of people who are identifying differently. But I also think that the postmodernist doctrines that are being rammed down people's necks need to be dispelled. But that's a question for another day.